Good morning, Joe. With us now, NBC News Chief White House Correspondent, Political Director, and the host of the Daily Rundown in the studio, Chuck Todd. We also have the former mayor of Washington, D.C., our friend Adrian Fenty. It's great to have you with us. Also, we've got John Heilman with us from Austin, Texas. Before we continue, and Dan Senor was talking about this as we went up, you know, I talked about being very pro-Israeli, but at the same time being shocked by what Romney said yesterday and also what Perry said yesterday. And Dan Senor also, a pro is. Dan, come on up. We got an extra seat here.
Come on over. Hey,
well, you know, what we're saying is even if you're pro-Israeli, what you're doing is you're undercutting the Israeli position, because by cutting off aid, which Netanyahu doesn't even want, you strengthen Hamas.
Well, I also had a couple of Democrats who didn't know how to, who on background complained of the timing of Perry's criticism.
The timing was horrific.
They're like, look, he wants to come and beat us up, is what this person said. Fine. But we're in the middle of a very sensitive period here, trying to see if there's any way they can help Abbas walk this back, who I'm told now would like to try to walk this back, but of course he's got his own domestic political pressure now. You know, as someone said, it's sort of he's leaned a little too far forward on his skis here a little bit, so it is hard for him to totally pull this back.
If he goes home and caves, he strengthens Hamas.
Correct. If he goes, and that's the problem.
It is a zero-sum game.
It's the first time Abbas has ever felt as if he's got any kind of support from the sort of Hamas part of it. So and then Perry just throws this, you know, stink bomb yesterday, and it was complicated.
Mitt Romney as well, and I guess, you know, the most damaging thing about what Perry did, Dan Senor, is that he brought up Israeli politicians to stand behind him, who, by the way, as you pointed out before, are opponents of Netanyahu's. It was reckless.
From the right.
So look, it was reckless and irresponsible, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we can debate about aid cut off and whether it should be used as leverage. You know, Netanyahu's view is, I already have a Hamas state in Gaza. I don't want one in the West Bank. You cut off security assistance to the West Bank, to the Palestinian Authority, I'm in bigger trouble. So I need Salam Fayyad to have those tools. But U.S. policymakers and legislators can debate how to use funding for leverage. But to me, what was most offensive is to bring a foreign national politician, an elected official, and drag them into our domestic politics. That is pretty unprecedented. Look, Israel finds its way.
By the way, Dan, and we have to underline for Americans that haven't followed this closely, at one of the most sensitive diplomatic moments in recent American history with regards to the Middle East.
Right.
It wasn't like he just did this on a sunny day in September.
Right.
This is already a crisis, not for President Obama, but for the United States of America.
Right. And he brought the Deputy Speaker of the Parliament, of the Knesset, held, I think, a press conference with him, did some sort of press event with him. And it was basically, it looked like he was dragging in a foreign politician to endorse the campaign of Rick Perry against the incumbent president of the United States.
If September of 03, John Kerry or Howard Dean coming to New York City
with a bunch of Frenchmen behind us.
Anti-war, upset over the Iraq war, and standing with, I mean, that is what sort of like and yes, look, I know that when it comes to the issue of Israel, it is treated like a domestic political issue, and we forget that sometimes. Wait a minute, we have this line about the water's edge. Some politics is supposed, and I know with Israel that you blow past that rule all the time.
But this is a whole new level.
Yeah. Well, this is a whole new level, and again, the thing to remember here is the most hardliners in Israel don't want what Rick Perry wants, because again, it strengthens Hamas.
Right.
You weaken Abbas, you strengthen Hamas.
And I think what Perry should have done what Perry should have done.
You know what? Put that on a bumper sticker.
Yeah, you could.
There's a case against the administration on what's going on right now that just you could prosecute a case of incompetence, right? When Jim Jones was National Security Advisor, when Obama came in, he said this: if he could solve one problem in the world, one problem, it would be ending the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. They put all their eggs in that basket, focused, expended a lot of capital doing it. They chose a new strategy, which was, yes, this tight security partnership, but fomenting some distance from Israel publicly. And here we are today, and the Israelis and the Palestinians are further from a peace deal than ever. If you look at the Pew Research poll,
public opinion among Palestinians as they view Obama way down. That's the case. If Perry wants to make that, that's the case to make. But to drag Israeli politicians
but
into
Mr. Mayor, you don't make that case this week in New York.
Well, you just said it. It's like Perry is overplaying his hand. They saw what happened in the New York congressional race. They're trying to get every state, every jurisdiction they can, every congressional race. How can we get more support for our own pro-Israel state?
Right. So what is this saying about what's going on inside? I would ask you this, but Chuck's here. I want to hear your take. What does this say about what's going on inside the Perry campaign that they would think to actually do this and machinate a statement like that?
You know, we forget it is a campaign that is about 40 days old. All right, and they are still.
But
you know,
really, what's the conversation about why they should?
As you said, they
you know,
look behind them.
You know what. You know how this sort of comes about, right? You have the campaign team going, okay, we're going to be in New York for a bunch of fundraisers. Obama's here. It was probably happenstance at the time in one sense, you know, when they were doing these fundraisers.
In the meeting with the... Yeah.
Hey, and they said, you know what, there's probably an Israeli, there's probably a pro-Israel rally. Let's find... I mean, you can see how this happens and semi-innocently. And you wonder... Look, his remarks themselves, you take out the appeasement line, and he wasn't... As Jeff Goldberg said, he wasn't as he thought he was going to be a little more anti-Palestinian, you know, a little more. Right. Is there a case to be that where you're too pro-Israel in some of your remarks? And he wasn't. The appeasement line was pretty rough stuff. But you do get the sense they didn't quite fully vet this out.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, again, the implications of having foreign politicians standing behind you in New York City to undercut the President of the United States in one of the most crucial times in recent Middle East diplomatic history. It's staggering.
It looks political, which is what it is. I mean, it just...
yeah, I'd say so.
Smells like a duck, walks like a duck.
I think that's they're doing exactly what they've been criticizing Obama about doing, is playing politics and making everything into a campaign issue.
Yeah, no doubt about
Mayor
it.
Fenty, stay with us. Chuck, thank you so much. We'll see you on the Daily Rundown.
Thank you. What do you got today?
Dick Durbin and Lamar Alexander.
Lamar
stepping down so he can work more on the bipartisan thing, which is sort of a tacit admission when you're in leadership. You're not allowed to be bipartisan.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you know,
like the new John McCain. The new McCain.
All right, up next, actor Denzel Washington and Ron Howard are in Washington. We're going to talk to them after the break. Morning Joe will be right back.